The alien war dog struggled to breathe, each painful gasp sending shudders through its massive body. Blue blood pooled beneath it, soaking into the scorched earth of the battlefield. The creature's armored hide, once gleaming and impenetrable, now lay cracked and broken. Through the gaps, raw flesh pulsed weakly. Hours had passed since the Sith Empire troops had withdrawn. They hadn't bothered to collect their wounded equipment, the bioengineered beasts they'd bred for war. The creatures were disposable to them, just living weapons to be discarded when damaged. This particular beast had fought well. It had torn through the human defenses with terrifying efficiency until coalition forces had finally brought it down with concentrated fire. Now it lay dying, abandoned by its masters without a second thought. The creature's enhanced senses picked up movement nearby. Human soldiers approached cautiously through the smoke. It could smell their fear, their sweat, and their determination. In its previous encounters, these scents had triggered its attack programming. Now, too weak to fight, it could only watch them come closer. Captain Juwu raised her fist, signaling her team to stop. Her reconnaissance squad had been tasked with surveying the battlefield after the Sith retreat, looking for threats or useful intelligence. "Movement at 2 o'clock, she whispered, her voice barely audible through the comm system in their helmets. Through the haze of smoke and dust, they all saw it, the slow rise and fall of a massive chest, the unmistakable form of a Sith war beast. Sergeant Dongyun immediately raised his rifle, the targeting system locking onto the creature's vital spots. "Should be dead," he said flatly. "Command says clean sweep. No survivors." The squad medic, Taeyong, moved quickly. He pushed the surgeon's rifle barrel downward. "Wait," he said firmly. "Look at its eyes." The creature was watching them, not with the mindless aggression they'd come to expect from Sith war beasts, but with something else. Its gaze shifted between them, tracking their movements with clear awareness. When Taeyong stepped closer, those eyes locked with his. Taeyong felt a chill run through him. There was intelligence there, and more. Understanding. Pain. Perhaps even a question. "It understands what happened," Taeyong said quietly, not looking away from the creature. "They left it to die." The beast made a low rumbling sound. Not a growl, but something almost like acknowledgement. Captain Juwu approached cautiously, her hand on her sidearm. She studied the war beast for a long moment. Its massive claws could tear a human in half. Its jaws could crush battle armor. Yet it made no move to attack, despite their vulnerability. "What are you thinking, Captain?" Dongyun asked tensely. "That thing has probably killed hundreds of our people." "It was made to kill," Juwu replied. "Did it ever have a choice?" The creature's breathing became more labored. Without medical attention, it would die soon. Coalition protocols were clear. Enemy combatants could be taken prisoner, but Sith war beasts were to be terminated on sight. They were considered too dangerous to capture. Taeyong knelt just out of reach of the beast. "Captain, I've never seen one up close like this. The Sith must have engineered them with near-human intelligence to make them effective on the battlefield, but they treat them like disposable weapons." The beast's eyes hadn't left Taeyong's face. There was something there. A silent plea, perhaps, or simply the will to live that existed in all creatures. Juwu made her decision. "Call in a med evac," she ordered. "Tell them we have a special package." "Captain," Donghyun protested. "Command will never approve bringing that thing to base." "Then we don't tell Command exactly what we found," Juwu replied firmly. "Not until we understand what we're dealing with." Taeyong was already pulling medical supplies from his pack. "I'll need to stabilize it for transport. I have no idea if human medical techniques will work on its biology." The war beast watched as Taeyong approached with a medical scanner. It tensed briefly, then relaxed, as if deciding to trust these strange enemies. "You're making a mistake," Dongyun warned. "That thing is a killing machine." "Maybe," Juwu acknowledged, "or maybe it's something more. Either way, I want to find out." As the rest of the team secured the perimeter, Taeyong began to treat the creature's wounds. The beast remained still, its intelligent eyes following every movement. For the first time in its existence, it experienced something new: mercy. The medical bay hummed with activity as Dr. Minji Lee studied the readings on her screen. Behind the reinforced glass, the alien war beast lay on a specially designed table. Tubes and sensors connected to its massive body monitored every function. The creature's blue blood flowed through external filters before returning to its body. "Look at this," Minji said, pointing to a graph on her screen. "Its cells are rebuilding at 20 times the rate of human tissue." Lieutenant Hyunwoo Choi leaned closer, his face reflecting the blue light of the monitor. He had opposed bringing the creature to the vase. Now, 3 weeks later, he found himself increasingly fascinated by it. "Is that normal for its species?" he asked. "We have no baseline," Minji admitted. "This is the first Zith war beast we've captured alive. But I suspect they engineered this ability. It helps explain why they're so effective in battle." The staff had begun calling the creature Fang, a nickname that had stuck despite official records listing it as Specimen Z1. The name had started as a joke about its impressive teeth, but somehow it seemed to fit the creature's personality. Minji switched to another screen showing brainwave patterns. "But what's truly fascinating is the neural activity. See these patterns here and here?" Hyunwoo nodded, though he didn't fully understand what he was seeing. "These indicate complex thinking," Minji continued excitedly. "Problem-solving capabilities, emotional processing, even what might be equivalent to our abstract thought." "So it's smart?" Hyunwoo asked simply. Minji's eyes lit up. "Beyond smart. These readings suggest a level of cognition comparable to higher primates, possibly beyond. The Zith didn't just breed a weapon. They created a thinking being and then treated it as disposable." Inside the medical chamber, Fang's eyes opened slightly. Though sedated, it seemed aware of being discussed. Its gaze tracked the 2 humans on the other side of the glass. Later that evening, Hyunwoo found Taeyong in the observation room. The medic sat alone in the dim light, watching Fang through the window. The creature slept now, its massive chest rising and falling steadily. Hyunwoo sat beside him, offering a cup of coffee. "You've been here a lot." "Someone should be," Taeyong replied, taking the cup. "I don't think it likes being alone." "It told you that?" Hyunwoo asked with a slight smile. "Not in words, but yes, in a way." Taeyong sipped his coffee. "When no one's here, its heart rate increases. When someone sits with it, even just watching like this, it stabilizes." They sat in silence for a while, watching the sleeping creature. Fang's wounds had healed remarkably. Where once there had been gaping injuries, now only faint scars remained on its blue-gray hide. "You were right to save it," Hyunwoo finally admitted. "I would have killed it on that battlefield." Taeyong nodded. "When our eyes met that day, it wasn't just an animal. It knew it had been abandoned." There was understanding there. "Dr. Lee thinks it might be as intelligent as we are," Hyunwoo said. "Maybe more in some ways." "And the Zith just left it to die," Taeyong said bitterly. "Like broken equipment." A small alert pinged on the security console. Both men turned to look at the monitor. The perimeter camera showed a dark shape moving against the night sky, the sleek form of a Zith scout ship passing silently overhead. "That's the 3rd flyby this week," Hyunwoo said, quickly typing commands to track the ship's path. "They're looking for their lost property," Taeyong said grimly. In the medical chamber, Fang's eyes had opened again. Despite the distance and the soundproof glass, it seemed to sense the change in the human's demeanor. Its ears flattened against its head, and a low rumble vibrated in its chest. "It knows," Taeyong said. "Somehow, it knows they're out there." Hyunwoo checked the security readings. "The ship is maintaining high altitude. I don't think they've detected anything yet." "But they will," Taeyong said. "They won't stop looking." Inside the chamber, Fang had risen to a sitting position, pulling at the sensors attached to its body. Its eyes were fully alert now, focused on the ceiling as if it could see through it to the ship passing overhead. "Should we sedate it again?" Hanwoo asked, reaching for the medical controls. Taeyong placed a hand over his. "No. Let's see what it does." To their surprise, Fang carefully removed the remaining sensors, then moved to the window separating it from the humans. It placed one massive clawed hand against the glass and looked directly at them. "What does it want?" Hanwoo whispered. Taeyong approached the glass, raising his hand to mirror Fang's gesture. "I think it's trying to tell us something." Fang's eyes moved upward again, toward the ceiling, then back to the humans. It repeated this motion 3 times. "It knows they're searching," Taeyong said. "And I think it's afraid." For a creature designed to feel no fear in battle, this realization was profound. Fang wasn't just running on instinct or programming. It was experiencing true emotion. "We need to move it deeper into the facility," Hyunwoo decided. "Somewhere the Zith sensors can't penetrate." As if understanding these words, Fang lowered its hand and stepped back from the glass, waiting. Taeyong sat patiently as Fang studied the symbols on the large touchscreen. The interface had been specially designed for the alien's massive claws, with reinforced buttons and simple pictures. After 4 months of daily sessions, Fang now understood over 200 words and could form basic sentences. "Try again," Taeyong encouraged, pointing to a symbol showing 2 figures standing together. Fang's eyes narrowed in concentration. The alien extended one huge claw and carefully pressed the button. The room filled with a mechanical voice. "Friend." "Good." Taeyong smiled, offering the small treat from his pocket. Fang had developed a strong liking for dried mango pieces. The alien war beast looked very different now. Its wounds had fully healed, leaving silvery scars across its blue-gray hide. It moved with confidence and purpose. Most importantly, its eyes showed intelligence and awareness that surprised everyone who met it. Fang took the treat delicately, careful not to scratch Taeyong with its claws. In the beginning, Fang had struggled to control its strength, breaking equipment and accidentally hurting staff members. Now it moved with surprising gentleness around humans. "Let's try something new today," Taeyong suggested, bringing up a different screen with more complex symbols. Fang tilted its head, ears perking forward with interest. The creature's size still impressed Taeyong, standing nearly 8 feet tall when upright, with powerful limbs and a thick muscular tail for balance. The Zith had engineered it to be the perfect killing machine. Yet here it sat, eagerly learning to communicate. The door slid open with a hiss. Commander Sunwoo Kim entered, his uniform crisp and his expression stern. Fang immediately tensed, sensing the man's mood. "How is the training progressing?" Sunwoo asked without greeting. "Communication, not training," Taeyong corrected gently. "And it's going well. Fang now understands complex concepts and can express basic needs and thoughts." Sunwoo nodded but seemed unimpressed. "The Defense Committee wants a progress report by tomorrow. General Jinsu is pushing to study Fang's combat capabilities." Taeyong felt his heart sink. "Combat capabilities? Sir, we've been focusing on communication and socialization. The Zith created it as a weapon, medic. We need to understand its tactical value." Taeyong stood up, positioning himself slightly between Fang and the commander. "Fang isn't a weapon to be pointed at the Zith. We'd be no better than them." The commander's eyes narrowed. "That's not your decision, medic. The war continues, and we need every advantage. Your job is to help us understand this creature's abilities." "Its abilities include learning, feeling, and thinking," Taeyong argued. "Fang deserves to be treated as more than just military hardware." Sunwoo stared at him for a long moment. "Your attachment to the subject is clouding your judgment. I expect that report tomorrow, with full details on physical capabilities and potential combat applications." After the commander left, Taeyong sighed heavily and turned back to Fang. The alien had watched the entire exchange with intense focus. Its clawed hands moved to the communication panel, pressing a series of buttons deliberately. The mechanical voice spoke. Understand. Humans fight each other. About me. Taeyong's eyebrows rose in surprise. Fang had grasped the underlying conflict from just their conversation. Yes, he admitted sadly. Some humans still see you as a weapon. Fang considered this, then pressed more buttons without hesitation. Not weapon. Person. Taeyong felt a lump form in his throat. I know, he said softly. Later that evening, Dr. Minji joined Taeyong in the observation room. Through the glass, they watched Fang sleeping in its quarters, no longer a sterile cell, but a living space with comfortable bedding and objects the alien found interesting. The commander wants combat evaluations, Taeyong told her. Minji frowned. That would undo months of progress. Fang has been working to overcome the aggressive programming the Zith installed. They still see it as a tool, Taeyong said. A weapon we can use. What did Fang say about that? Minji asked. Not weapon. Person. Taeyong quoted. Clear and direct. Remarkable, Minji said. 4 months ago, it couldn't communicate at all. Now it's asserting its personhood. In its room, Fang shifted in sleep, ears twitching. The monitors showed it was dreaming. Brain scans had revealed that Fang experienced vivid dreams, often featuring scenes of its former life with the Zith. These dreams frequently caused distress. I won't let them turn Fang back into a weapon, Taeyong said firmly. Be careful, Minji warned. The military sees Fang as valuable technology. They won't easily give that up. The next morning, Fang surprised them both. When they arrived for the daily session, the alien was already at the communication panel. It had activated the system on its own and composed a message waiting on the screen. The mechanical voice read it aloud as they entered. Fang help humans. Show fighting. But Fang choose when fight. Not forced. Person choice. Not weapon use. Taeyong and Minji exchanged amazed looks. You understand what the commander wants? Taeyong asked. Fang nodded, a human gesture it had learned. It pressed more buttons. Show fighting ability. But Fang decide. Friends trust Fang. Fang trust friends. For a creature bred only for war, this level of ethical reasoning was extraordinary. Fang wasn't just learning words. It was developing a moral framework all its own. We do trust you, Taeyong said, placing his hand against the glass, and we'll make them understand you're a person, not a weapon. Fang placed its massive clawed hand opposite Taeyong's, a gesture that had become their sign of agreement. Its intelligent eyes held a resolve that matched the human's own. The alarm screamed through the station. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor. People ran in all directions, some to battle stations, others to evacuation points. The Zith attack had come without warning, catching the colony on Proxima I completely by surprise. In the command center, Major Ju Park studied the tactical displays with a grim expression. The enemy ships had appeared suddenly from behind the planet's largest moon. Now Zith ground forces were landing at multiple points around the colony. Status report, she demanded. They've breached the outer defense line, an officer replied. Zith forces include at least 30 war beasts. Our troops are falling back to secondary positions. Ju's jaw tightened. This was what they had feared for months. The Zith had finally tracked down their missing property and decided to reclaim it, along with destroying the entire human colony. We need to evacuate all non-combat personnel, she ordered. Taeyong, get Fang to the secure bunker. The medic nodded and rushed from the command center. Over the past 8 months, Fang had become an important member of their community. Many still feared the alien, but others had come to see it as a person, not a weapon. Taeyong was determined to keep it safe. When he reached Fang's quarters, he found the door already open. Inside, the alien war beast was not hiding or preparing to evacuate. Instead, Fang was carefully fitting pieces of modified armor over its massive body. Dr. Minji's team had designed the armor as a research project, never intending it for actual combat. Fang, what are you doing? Taeyong asked urgently. We need to get to the bunker. The alien turned to face him. Its vocal synthesizer, attached to a collar around its thick neck, translated its thoughts into words. Fang fight, the mechanical voice stated clearly. Help humans. No Zith tactics. It's too dangerous, Taeyong argued. The Zith specifically want to capture you. Fang's eyes showed determination. Humans saved Fang. Now Fang save humans. Before Taeyong could argue further, his communicator buzzed. Major Juwu's voice came through, tense and hurried. Taeyong, bring Fang to the command center immediately. We need its help. The situation had deteriorated rapidly. By the time Taeyong and Fang arrived at the command center, the tactical displays showed Zith forces pushing deep into the colony. The human defenders were fighting bravely, but falling back at every point. Hyunwoo, now a captain, greeted them with obvious relief. The Zith are using their war beasts as shock troops. Our weapons barely slow them down. Fang studied the tactical displays, understanding the situation immediately. Its clawed finger pointed to specific areas on the map. Zith target power core, standard tactic, cut power, then attack medical facilities. Juwoo nodded grimly. That matches our assessment. Can you help us stop them? Fang help, the alien replied simply. It pointed to the largest concentration of enemy forces. Fang go here. Speak to others like Fang. Speak to them. Hyunwoo looked confused. They're under Zith control. Fang touched the scared area at the base of its skull, where its own control implant had once been. Control not complete. Can reach them. The command team exchanged uncertain looks, but they had few options left. 20 minutes later, Fang moved through the ruins of the colony's eastern district. Taeyong insisted on accompanying the alien, despite the danger. They approached the front lines where human defenders crouched behind makeshift barriers, firing desperately at the advancing Zith forces. Let us through, Taeyong ordered. The soldiers stared in amazement as Fang strode past them, its massive form now fully armored. Beyond the human lines, they could see the Zith advance. Among the alien soldiers were creatures like Fang, war beasts bred for combat, their eyes empty as they followed commands without question. Stay back, Fang told Taeyong through its synthesizer. Then it stepped into the open ground between the battle lines. Both sides momentarily stopped firing, surprised by this unexpected development. The Zith commander barked orders, and 3 war beasts broke from their formation, charging toward Fang with murderous intent. Taeyong watched in horror, certain he was about to witness Fang's death. But as the beasts drew closer, something strange happened. Fang stood tall and produced a series of deep, rumbling sounds, not through its synthesizer, but from its own throat. A language Taeyong had never heard before. The charging beasts slowed, then stopped, their heads tilted, as if listening carefully. The Zith handlers shouted commands and activated control devices, causing the beasts to twitch in pain. But they did not resume their attack. Fang continued its strange communication, stepping closer to its kind. Its claws gently touched the head of the nearest beast, near the control implant. In the command center, Juwoo and Hyunwoo watched this unfold on their monitors. What's happening? Juwoo demanded. Hyunwoo pointed to another screen showing a wider view of the battlefield. Other Zith war beasts were now breaking formation, ignoring their handlers' commands. It's showing them another way. The Zith commanders realized something was wrong. They increased the power to the control implants, causing the war beasts to roar in pain. But instead of obeying, the creatures turned on their handlers. Chaos erupted in the Zith lines as their own weapons turned against them. War beasts tore into Zith soldiers, ripping control devices from their hands. Other beasts used massive claws to tear out their own implants, freeing themselves from control despite the pain. Back in the command center, the tactical situation was transforming before their eyes. The Zith forces are in full retreat in sectors 3 and 4, an officer reported with disbelief. The war beasts are. They're protecting our positions. Hyunwoo stared at the screen showing Fang, now surrounded by a dozen others of its kind. All of them damaged, bleeding from self-extracted implants, but with eyes now showing the same intelligence and awareness as Fang's. It didn't just know their tactics, Hyunwoo said quietly. It knew how to free them. Jumu watched as the tide of battle turned. What had begun as a desperate last stand was becoming a possible victory. And more importantly, something new was being born on the battlefield. A liberation. The grand conference hall of the Galactic Council gleamed under soft blue lights. Representatives from 12 different species sat in curved rows, their attention fixed on the center stage. Some wore breathing masks, others floated in special tanks, but all watched with interest as the next speaker prepared to address them. A hush fell over the room as Fang walked slowly toward the podium. The alien moved with dignity, its powerful body no longer designed just for war. The armor it wore now was ceremonial, marked with symbols of peace. The scars on its blue-gray hide told the story of its journey, from weapon to person, from slave to leader. Behind Fang stood Taeyong, his face showing pride and emotion. Now the director of interspecies relations, he had walked a long path with Fang. From that first meeting on a bloody battlefield to this historic day. 2 years had passed since the Battle of Proxima I. What had begun as a desperate defense had turned into a revolution. After Fang showed its kindred how to break free from Sith control, the rebellion spread quickly across the galaxy. War beasts everywhere broke their chains and turned against their masters. The mighty Sith Empire, built on the backs of enslaved beings, collapsed from within. Now, over 300 of Fang's kind lived in a settlement called Haven. There, they learned, grew, and defined themselves as more than weapons. They created art, developed their own language, and built a society based on freedom and choice. Fang reached the podium, specially built to accommodate its large frame. Its vocal synthesizer had been refined over the years, now producing a voice that carried both strength and warmth. I speak for those who had no voice. Fang began, the words resonating through the hall. We were created for war, but humans showed us we were meant for more. They saw what our creators could not, that intelligence deserves respect, regardless of its origin. Fang's eyes moved across the assembly, meeting the gaze of representatives from worlds both familiar and strange. We call ourselves the Kiran now, Fang continued. The word means the freed ones in our new language. We seek recognition not as weapons, not as tools, but as people with the right to determine our own future. A holographic display activated, showing images of Haven. Kiran worked together to build homes, tended gardens, cared for their young. Some still bore the scars of battle and control implants, but their eyes showed something the Sith had never intended, hope. We were designed to destroy, Fang said, but we choose to create. We were programmed to hate, but we choose to love. We were built for war, but we choose peace. In the audience, Ju, now a general, leaned toward Hyunwoo. Did you ever imagine this when we found one dying creature on a battlefield? She whispered. Hyunwoo shook his head. No, but I'm glad we were wrong about what we thought we found that day. We didn't rescue a weapon. We rescued the first ambassador of a new civilization. Fang's voice grew stronger as it reached the end of its address. The Sith saw us as living weapons, without rights or feelings. They were wrong. The humans who saved me could have seen me the same way. Some did at first, but they chose to see me as more, as someone who could think, feel, and choose. Dr. Minji wiped tears from her eyes as she listened. She had spent countless hours helping the Kiran adapt their bodies, removing the most violent aspects of their design without changing who they were. We asked the Galactic Council to recognize the Kiran as a sovereign species with full rights under interstellar law. Fang concluded, not because we were born, but because we chose to be. Not because we were designed, but because we redesigned ourselves. The hall fell silent when Fang finished speaking. Then, one by one, The representatives stood. It began with the human delegation, led by Commander Sunwoo, once skeptical, now a strong supporter. The other species followed, rising in a wave of approval. The council speaker approached Fang, carrying a crystal tablet, the formal recognition document. The council recognizes the Kiran as the newest member of our galactic community, the speaker announced, not as weapons, but as people, not as created beings, but as fellow travelers on the path of civilization. Fang accepted the tablet carefully in its massive claws. For a moment, it stood silently, overcome with emotion. Then it turned to Taeyong, who stepped forward and placed his hand against Fang's arm, the same gesture they had shared since the beginning. On the newly settled world of Haven, thousands of Kiran watched the ceremony on broadcast screens. They had once been engines of destruction. Now they were farmers, artists, teachers, and parents. They had been given no choice in their creation, but they had chosen their destiny. As the council session ended, Fang walked from the chamber, not as a specimen or a weapon, but as an ambassador. The path from battlefield to council hall had been long, but it had started with a simple act of mercy, when humans had seen a person where others saw only a weapon. The end.